Welcome to the Service MVP podcast, and my name is Joe Crisara, America's service sales coach. And today we have I usually say very special guest, but today it's an extremely special guest, one of my best friends in the history of friends, Tommy Mello. Tommy, say hi to our listeners who are listening here.
Hey, everybody. How are you?
Well, Tommy is going to come on with me for a very short period of time to give you guys a taste of some of his wisdom and knowledge and passion. He is a guy that when you deal with him, what you get from him is that you know he's somebody who cares about you, he's somebody who respects you, and he's somebody that supports you. That's what I have noticed about him. And Tommy, I'm so happy to have you on here today.
Excited to be here, Joe. Glad I could do this.
All right, Tommy, let's get started. Tell people just a little about who you are and what you've achieved. Let's just get a little short thumbnail about you and the things you've achieved, and then we will go on to getting those secrets to growing your home service business. Go ahead, Tommy.
Yeah, about 16 years in the garage door industry. And before that, I was involved in, I wouldn't consider it real landscaping, but I shoveled snow, mowed lawns, I fixed sprinklers. Not making a lot of money in that business, but I love home service. And I'm from Detroit, about an hour outside of Detroit, Sterling Heights, Michigan. And started like most people start. I didn't really know the industry at all. I wasn't a technician beforehand, but I love sales. I love customers. I love marketing. And slowly but surely, after mistake after mistake after mistake, made a really good company. We've got about 700 employees here at A1 Garage Door Service. Recently brought on a partner like you're hearing a lot of companies do, but I'm a little bit different because I rolled a lot. They literally told me they've never seen anybody that wants to roll this much back into a company. And the reason I did that is just because I felt like I needed money to be able to buy businesses. And they would have let me take 80% of the company back, I would have, but I ended up with a little under 50%. And right now it's hard to get money. So by them having money for me to buy companies, I felt like I could grow way faster than getting here on my own. The chips off the table didn't mean much for me, but it was cool. It's been helpful to be able to help a lot of people around me that I've wanted to help before they get extremely old. They can still do stuff with some of the money. So
Tommy, when did you first start A1 Garage? When did that get started when you were in Phoenix, when you got that going?
Yeah,
when did that first start?
2007 is the first year we were actually an LLC.
And then now, can you share? Are you willing to share your overall revenue and the size of the company in terms of just to give people an idea of the scale?
Yeah,
of the
I
company,
mean, there's 700 people. We'll do over 200 million this year. Last month we made a lot of mistakes. That's kind of I'm looking at all these PowerPoints that I prepared for our partners, and we hit 17% bottom line, and I'm not proud of that number, to be honest with you. I think we'll hit 22.5% in April, and I'd like to hit 25% in May. And this isn't normal for any home service company, the numbers I'm talking about. And I don't want people to say, oh, I need to get into garage doors. I truly believe I could do this in any company, outside of home service as well, from everything I've learned. And it comes down to just know your numbers. And our partner is forcing us to dig deep and ask deeper questions. And I'm loving it.
Well, I tell you what, Tommy, I'm very rarely impressed. Whenever I see a company that grows and scales like you guys did, the thing I was the most impressed when I visited Phoenix, Arizona, is how it seemed like to me a small company inside of a big company. It's hard to say that. It's hard. I'm not sure if I'm articulating that correct, but it felt like when I'm at a $1 million company, it had that same vibe and that same feel where there was no like walls between sales, service, install, the university, the HR people, the marketing people. It just seemed like everybody was connected. And that to me is your biggest achievement, is that keeping everybody connected. And that's something I think you should definitely be proud of, Tom. And I'm not sure if you are, but I think it should be.
There's still some dysfunctions going on. I got to tell you, I go back to my original training about 6 years ago, is just learning about everything's the more you could systematize a business, the more you could systemize an integration. Like, if you don't have a checklist for your integration, if you don't have it, understand their org chart, what you're buying, who makes what, have a plan when you buy them. What's the marketing? What's the top 3 things you're going to do? What's the Q&A that they're going to have? All the FAQs. Have you worked on that? Like, I think success leaves clues. And when they ask questions, those should be documented. Someone else is going to have that question. And I'll tell you, the hardest part for me, Joe, is there's so much technology available. You might be on Asana, you might be on Trello, you might be on Monday, you might talk to people through Slack, you might love talking to people, you might have an LMS, you might talk to somebody on this or this or this or this, and it goes on. You might use Teams. And they all work. My problem is we use all of them. And because I have so many employees and because I didn't create a good SOP for you to start, I get you really efficient, because you might say, look, we used to use Slack in my last job. We loved it because everybody was using it. It's like, look, I love using a telephone because I know everybody owns one. And that's why I still text message everybody rather than email and all these other things, but it's not as efficient. So I was just on the phone with my CTO, and I said, Jim, we need to make sure everybody around me knows how to use a Monday board better than I do. Whatever it might be, because I just need people that are accountable, and that's what we're focused on. I mean, it's hard to grow at the speed we're growing, and you just told me you guys have huge plans, and that's amazing because you're dreaming big. You're planning on doubling again, and I got to tell you, I would like to see another double here in the next 18 months. My goals aren't as big as yours to double in 1 year, but if I can do it in 18 months. I would love that.
Well, Tommy, I always look at it this way. It's like you told me I'm going to tell people off the record what he told me. He said, don't sell this business at Service MVP until you talk to me first. And I'm going to hold you to that. I'm just trying to build something good enough for Tommy Mello to invest in. That's my only goal in life, is to make sure that it's good. It meets up to your standards. And if it does, then I know I've achieved nirvana for any business who would be lucky enough. Because when you get something, listen, this is not a pitch for Tommy Mello buying your business, but I'll tell you this: if you're lucky enough to have Tommy in your business, you're having somebody who's got the passion, the knowledge, and is able to share the ball with other people in a way that I've never really seen anybody in the business. Not anybody. I mean, there's a lot of people I know who are very successful. Tommy does those 3 things to me the best. And he believes in the same thing I believe, was education and sales, and really everything about it kind of centers around that. Tommy, would you let's go and talk about, let's get to those secrets of getting a company to be growing a home service business. This is the guy who wrote the Home Service Millionaire, right? Is that the name of the first book you wrote, Tommy?
Home Service Millionaire was the first book I wrote. Yep.
And then the second one right now, he's got his what do you call it? Elevate, which is the current book that's mainly for business owners, that would really show you how to take it to the next level. Things he added on to and expanded on from the Home Service Millionaire. And Tommy's got a great podcast of his own too. Tommy, let's get right into as many of these secrets that you can give us that you think people can apply. I call small bigs. What can people do that's a small thing that starts creating a big result in a business that people may be hidden in plain sight? Can you share some of those golden nuggets with our listeners, please?
Yeah, well, number one, and this goes for every employee, every business owner, every husband, every wife, is have a plan. Have a detailed plan of how you're going to get there. Because if you just say, I want to become rich, if you want to lose 12 pounds over the next 4 months, the fact that you said 4 months is great. How much next week? How much next month? How much the month after that? What are you going to do? What does your heart rate need to be when you're doing cardio? If you want to become a better dad, how much time does that mean without your cell phone on when you're at home? What does that mean you're doing for his field trips or her field trips, your daughter or son? What does that mean? So if you don't have a really, really, really specific plan on financial freedom, on getting closer to the Lord, if you believe in the Lord, on getting a better relationship with your wife, if you don't have a plan, you'll never succeed. And it's got to be detailed. I'm talking day one. And then another thing is you need to turn on the blinders. Turn on the blinders. Say no to a lot more things and focus on the things that are going to move the needle the quickest. And what I recommend is getting an old-fashioned planner and writing down every time you get interrupted. You should have a plan of the 4 big things, 2 or 3 or 4 things you're going to get done today that are going to move the needle. Is it focused on call booking rate? Did you work on your SOPs? Did you put a manual together? Did you really put free key phrases together? Do you have checks and balances to make sure? Are you going to spend 3 hours today working on that? Because if you are, every time you got interrupted, I want you to write that down and say, how do I put the blinders on again? How do I get really dedicated time to working on the things that are going to move the needle? I think time gets stolen from people all the time. I really think that if you could focus, if you got to work from home, invite people to your house and turn off your cell phone and lock yourself in a room and say, we're not leaving this room until these things get done. I think too many people are afraid to go to their top performers, whether it's a CSR dispatch manager, technician, warehouse manager, could be somebody handling your fleet. If you're not willing to have those difficult conversations, those very difficult conversations, then you're in trouble. And if the company is predicated on the fact that these people are great and you've got this lightning in a bottle and you can't afford not to do that, have a hard conversation, or you're afraid they're going to walk out, then that's not a business. It's really not.
Slavery.
Another quick one, Joe, is if you do not have A-plus people coming to your doorstep applying, then you haven't done your job right. You've got to be able to recruit A-plus talent. And the one of the things I look at marketing now, way more for the right people to work with me rather than my clients. I used to think it was only how do I get great clients? And now I think it's so much more about getting great internal clients, which are my coworkers.
Can I ask you a question about that, Tom?
Yeah.
One of the question is that a lot of people are taking a lot of your advice. However, as you know, when you get responses to when you market and you brand yourself and you get your culture right so that it attracts employees, then you attract different employees. But one of the things about the thing I always say is the patience. How do you advise people when they run into, like, how many, I guess here's the short version. How many frogs are they going to need to kiss before they find the princess? Because that's where people run out of patience. They got like 1 or 2 bad people who tried to join, like, you can't find, and then they try, after 2 people, they give up and say, you can't find anymore. Could you tell us a little bit about the patience it takes, or the vetting process, to know if you got the right person, or just a little bit more?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. In the book, Darren Hardy wrote a book called Compound Effect. And you know this story, but he wrote down what he wanted in a wife, and he wrote down 100 things. He spent a month on writing down the perfect woman. And then he read this list and he said, there's no way a guy like me could ever be worthy of a girl like this. I need to change who I am. So he wrote down 100 things he would need to become. And when I read that, I wrote down 30 things I needed to become to be worthy of a great person who would work for me while I'm sleeping, who would look out for me when I'm not around, and who would do the right thing as far as morals, ethics, and values. So I think a lot of the time, first of all, the people that I'm trying to attract would not work for a crappy owner. They want to work for someone in charge, just like I view a lot of business as a sports game. And I want to work for the best coach ever that cares. I want someone that's going to look out for me and my family on and off the field. So I think you're going to have a lot of frogs to kiss when you're not a great leader and you don't care. And no one wants to work for the worst coach out there who's always throwing his shit. He's mad and he said, I told you so. If you guys don't listen, you guys don't do this right, and they're yelling all the time. So it's a tough question, Joe, because I think great coaches, great leaders, people are waiting in line to have an opportunity to work with them. And that's the difference. And when you get people that are humble, they're smart, they're hungry, they got a vision, and they know they want to work with you, there's not a lot of frogs. But trust me, back in the day before people knew about me, I mean, when you first become a coach, you got to tell people who you are. I made sure to get it out there. You can get it out there on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, wherever you want to go. Get it out there. Get it out there on Indeed and Glassdoor that the team loves you. And I think there's a lot less frogs to be kissed once people know that you're going to treat them right and you do care.
And then the culture adopts those, and it does change. It transforms people who join and like, wow, I feel better on day 2 working here because the culture is kind of turning me into a lady or gentleman that matches up with the standards of A1. And there's a certain standard that takes place. But I do think one thing you mentioned before kind of comes full circle, putting those blinders on. Because I noticed, like about you, Tommy, it's you're passionate, but you're not a hothead. Let's put it that way. A hothead means people who destroy the team when something goes wrong. You're passionate about it, but what you're passionate about is the team getting better and improving and supporting the team. That's what I see in that part of it. And I think a lot of times people unintentionally destroy their own team by some of that negative. How did you get that discipline, Tom? When did that switch turn on? Because I know that as a young man, as you're getting personal growth, that there's part of you that says, I want to bite that guy's head off, but instead you just give them support, but you give it to them in a passionate way. Does that make sense? When did that switch turn for you so I can learn about that?
I'm not really sure if there was an exact thing that happened. All I could tell you is I used to get really annoyed when people didn't do their job until I realized I was the problem and realized I didn't hold them accountable. Uh, maybe they got into a car accident, but I didn't notice they had 6 points on their record for speeding because I didn't have a process in place to where we were doing DMV checks every 2 weeks. So I tend to just accept all responsibility. And I used to get angry. And I don't know exactly when it changed. And now I say, show me where it's written down to a lot of times there's layers, right? Just like my Bree's dad is a master chief. There's layers in the military. There's layers, first string, second string, third string in the game. And different positions. And a lot of this has happened a lot. Even I'll give you an example. The CFO said to me the other day, it's taken forever to get back the reports I need to help you understand your marketing budget on a weekly basis. Monthly is easy. And I said, well, show me where your SOP is. Show me the checklist of what the marketing's supposed to do. Show me a video you made of showing exactly how that's done so I could understand it. Pretend that I'm a 10-year-old B student. Because show me where our guy in marketing signed off on it. Did he sign off? Did you give him a deadline? Does he know? And here's the thing. There is no such document. So I said, this document's got to get done and we'll set a deadline. And I set a deadline for him. So it's amazing when you're able to shift, Joe, and think in terms of systems, standard operating procedures, checklists, manuals. It could be very good notes. When you think about CSR as following a process rather than being really good. When you think about, just like you train on systems and building those magic moments, and you talk about saying these key phrases, you don't leave it to chance, is my point. And a lot of companies I find are leaving it to chance and they wonder why things go wrong.
Which is why our common friend Al Levy was been so valuable to your business when he helped document all those standard operating procedures for your company and guided you on track. How important was that? I know Al's influential in your life and such a great friend, and you never go anywhere without complimenting what he's meant to you. What do you think about that? Just the documentation of these standard procedures. How did that help you kind of scale this whole thing?
Well, it was everything. And at the time it was Adam and Brian in the company, and Adam's taken almost semi-retirement at this point. And it's weird because I was on the phone with Al earlier. He called about some stuff and because I emailed him and I said, the company's not following the same processes, and I could find it hasn't happened yet, but until everybody gets back on board and understanding the importance of SOPs. I mean, look, I think manuals are great, but I think there's something more to the manuals. And Al's even admitted, you got to take my manuals and get them into videos, and you need to get them onto this, that, and the other. The problem is no one uses them. If you don't have somebody training, like you should see what our guys got to pass technician wise when they come test out. I mean, it's not just a written test. There's the part of it where you got to go actually have a customer experience. There's all these things. So I think we've taken Al's work. It was super important to understand it's almost like a way of thinking about problems differently, is identifying where in the system that problem could have got created. And if it doesn't exist in the process, then you need to add it, because expecting a different result, if you're not looking at negative reviews and creating changes in your system, then that's on you. I go through this on blue in the face, but I still don't think people do it. You know what? If you don't have a system for going to bed to make sure you brush your teeth and make sure you floss and make sure that certain things get done, the lights get off, the doors get locked, that's a system before you go to sleep. When you wake up, there's a system or a habit that happens, and hopefully you systematize it. I'm working on a system for the lady cleaning the rooms that we use on the weekend, mostly first, like if someone's in the guest house, so they know they're there. It sounds stupid, like a system for a cleaning lady, but that's the way I think now.
Well, I think it's a great idea, because systems are worthless without people who put them in action. That's the implementation. And like you said, the testing and graduation of the systems. I think a lot of time people like I have a lot of people get Al's manuals. And I said, well, let's take what he's given us and let's make sure people can get tested on it. Like you said, you don't just get the system and say, okay, you got it, let's go fix a garage door. You're like, hey, you got to go through a customer experience. You got to go through our testing and our technical testing, and you got to graduate from these little things. How important is that element of it, Tommy, that people, you don't just set them free out in the world. Everybody needs to sort of be given the system, but also test to make sure they got it. Tell me about that a little bit more.
So I hired a guy from Service Titan. Service Titan, as you know, they did kind of a clearing of the house. They kind of, and they weren't bad people. They see the economy, it's changing. They got rid of 300 people. We took the top guy that understands the people that are in Arminia and systems, checks, and balances. And we call it our data integrity team. And what I'm doing is he's starting in June, and there will be somebody listening to every single interview. We have right now 20 meetings a day that last 15 minutes in the morning. It's market specific. There will be somebody making sure we hit what we need to hit on those meetings. There will be somebody listening to every single phone call by the CSR and grading them, as well as AI involved. So the biggest problem I see, Joe, is I might tell you to weigh every door, but Service Time allows us to take a picture to prove that you weighed it. So there's a data integrity to watch every single picture, to make sure I got the radius of the track, to make sure I took a before and after picture of this. And I think the problem was, and still is for most companies, is you might be telling somebody, I'm in 23 states now. So why is this market killing it? This market's stinking. Well, can you tell the difference in the interview? Well, now I'm making the exact same interview, and it better sound a lot similar. You better have a really good voice, and you better be like excited about where you work. And the only way it's going to get this big is if we're keeping an eye on everybody, making sure we're following the process. And I think there's so many great people, Joe, out there. I've seen them whiteboard a process, and it's amazing. But then the system, 3 reasons the system fails. There is no system. It's the wrong system, or the system's not being followed. And the biggest one is number 3. It's not being followed. So how are you making sure it's being followed?
Inspect. You remember Dave Geiger?
Inspect what you expect.
Yeah, you finished that sentence. All right, you got it, Tom. You passed the test on that. Well, Tommy, as they say, man, I wish I could speak to you for another hour, but I know your time is very valuable, and I always say a great meeting starts on time and a great one ends on time. This one is going to go a little over, so it may not be that great in terms of time being spent, but I definitely think the time was very valuable. And I want to thank you. Tom, what's the best way that people can learn more about you and be able to experience some of the things that you're doing in real time? Is there anything that people can do to learn more about how they can interact with you?
If they want to get the book, we created a special link for you, elevateandwin.com/Joe Crisara. If they want to listen to what I put out there, it's Home Service Expert. You've been on the podcast. If they want to see some really cool little videos, short glimpses, it's official Tommy Mello. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. And yeah, I love putting out new content. And here's the best part about I will go above and beyond to help people if you're just willing to implement. If you really, really, really wanted to come out and visit my shop, I'd let anybody do that in a heartbeat, but don't come here without implementing anything, because I don't want to do this in vain. I want to have them come out and I want their lives to get better. I think the home service trajectory, Joe, I want to have everybody be a wealth of knowledge, money, and happiness. And I'm not plugging it again, but and elevate us, build a business where everybody wins. Everybody should win. The employees should win. The customers win. The vendors win. Everybody should win. And that's what life's all about. That's what home service is all about to me.
Well, don't ever apologize for showing us ways that you can show us on that book. Go ahead and show us that book one more time. Come on, don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid of it. There you go. Get that book, everybody, because this is a shortcut to success. And Tommy Mello, he's all heart. I tell you what, when he said those words at the end, which is that he just wants everybody to be successful, that's exactly what I get. And that's why I'm so proud to be associated with you, Tom. And more importantly, look, I thought I'd start out with somebody who could be a client and a colleague, but what I really wound up with is a really great friend. And I want to thank you for that the most, Tom.
Thank you. Appreciate all your help. You're the man,
There's
Joe.
that magic moment, Tom.
That's what I was just thinking about.
I made him smile. All right, everybody,
right.
have a great one. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Tommy, thank you so much. Have a great one, everybody.
Thanks, Joe.